Welcome back, everyone. Ryan Reynolds just dropped another Deadpool 3 teaser confirming some really cool details about the movie and how it fits into the MCU, and a big crossover with the events of Loki Season 2, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. We'll be getting Loki Season 2 episodes way before Deadpool 3 happens, so I'll explain how that connects with Deadpool 3, because by the time the events of the movie take place, Loki, Sylvie, Mobius, the others at the TVA will have already encountered this Kang the Conqueror, will have already seen Kang during Ant-Man and the Wasp. Deadpool 3 won't be released, at least right now, until the end of 2024, so a ton of stuff will have happened when that picks up. The reason it's not listed on the Marvel Phase 6 schedule is because they only announced it after they did their big Comic-Con panel. But it is meant to be a Marvel Phase 6 movie, and this movie schedule will already shift a little bit because Spider-Man 4 with Tom Holland wasn't on the Comic-Con schedule. That's supposed to happen in July 2024 right now. And if you look at the schedule, the Thunderbolts movie is listed then right now, meaning that Marvel is going to move the Thunderbolts movie probably. So like all these Marvel movies, starting with the Thunderbolts, will shift by like one date. So Thunderbolts will happen in November 2024, taking the Deadpool 3 date, and Deadpool 3 will probably wind up releasing in February 2025. Fantastic Four will shift another movie date. Everything will just shift down the line by one movie. But just to be clear, the Thunderbolts movie is meant to be the end of Marvel Phase 5. I've already done a big video about that, so I'll post it in the links below because they're introducing a really big character. Previously, the Fantastic Four movie was going to be the beginning of Marvel Phase 6, now that's kind of Deadpool 3. But you probably spotted the big teaser that Ryan Reynolds just dropped out of nowhere, Deadpool versus Miss Minutes, confirming that the TVA is a big plot point during the movie. That's why he did that, confirming some of the plot details of the movie. Confirming that they're going to be major characters in the movie, and their big thing is protecting what they're told is the main timeline, the sacred timeline. But heading into Loki Season 2, Kang the Conqueror is the one who's currently winning the Kang Multiverse War. Meaning he's the person who's in charge of the TVA telling them what to do, not the He Who Remains variant, the more benevolent variant. So when Loki Season 2 picks up, the timeline that they've been protecting for all time always, as the saying goes, is a totally different timeline than the one that we just saw during Season 1. The original Sacred Timeline, when they call it the Sacred Timeline, was meant to be everything that we saw during the Marvel Infinity Saga of movies up to Avengers Endgame, like right up to the Loki Season 1. After Sylvie killed He Who Remains because he wasn't controlling the timeline with his technology anymore, the timeline rebooted, and in the second version of events, the Kang Multiverse War 2.0 played out, and currently this Kang the Conqueror is winning. But the idea is that it's still going on, like you're still having all these incursions. The Kang Multiverse War is one of the big reasons the incursions are happening. Not the only reason, like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness was all about Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch causing incursions, so there are multiple reasons why incursions happen, but the Kang Multiverse War is a big part of it. That's why at the end of Loki Season 1, when he comes back to the TVA and the timeline is different, so many crazy things are happening, people are running all over the place, like they're in the middle of a giant war, like, what do we fix? We don't know, he hasn't told us yet, and they're talking about that version of Kang the Conqueror, giving them orders about what to fix first. You still have all these variants of Kang running around in other timelines, battling it out with each other for supremacy. Loki Season 2 will be Loki trying to get the band back together, so to speak, having to re-explain everything that happened to everybody who doesn't remember the events of Season 1. And that's basically everybody except for Loki himself, Sylvie, because she was protected from the changes of the timeline, and Kang the Conqueror himself. We already got the Loki Season 2 trailer at D23. I've done a big video for it, so I'll link it at the end of this and down in the description below. But they will probably not defeat Kang entirely because we have Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty, just like Ant-Man will probably not defeat Kang. But the idea is that Loki, Mobius, Sylvie, the other TVA agents, regular hunters, will regain a level of control over the TVA itself and just continue trying to do what they're supposed to be doing, protecting timelines now because the larger multiverse, protecting reality from the really bad Nexus events. The funny thing, though, is that because we know that Avengers 5 Kang Dynasty is happening, Avengers 6 Secret Wars, they have to be unsuccessful. Like, they have to fail at some point, because the whole idea with Secret Wars is that all of reality collapses to a single world, a single timeline, controlled by Kang the Conqueror. The whole idea is that this version of Secret Wars is probably going to turn more around Kang the Conqueror than it is around God Emperor Doom, but I do expect Doctor Doom to be introduced to the MCU by then, so he'll probably be a part of this version of Secret Wars in some way. But Deadpool 3 is meant to take place before all the Kang Dynasty Secret Wars stuff. While Loki, the TVA are still running around dealing with the Kang Multiverse War and other big Nexus events, trying to actually do the job that they're supposed to be doing. Because they said the movie's going to take place in the MCU, Deadpool coming to the MCU with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine probably going to be based on the events of Deadpool 2, just because it all lines up perfectly. Like, they don't have to bend over backwards to explain how this all works. At the end of Deadpool 2, Deadpool takes Cable's time travel device, wreaks utter havoc on his own Fox Marvel timeline, changing a whole bunch of stuff. The way you explain the events of the Wolverine Origins movie is that version of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, the bad version, is meant to be a variant of Deadpool, another version from another similar but slightly different timeline where the events of Deadpool's life played out differently. The way they explain timelines during Loki Season 1 is that they're kind of like bundles of rope with a couple minor variations on events that all exist within the same timeline. When things are really different, that's when they branch off and become Nexus events, and if they go on long enough, if they go past the red line point, those branches turn into fully alternate universes. He Who Remains Kang was preventing a lot of that from happening, like keeping the different variants within a certain range. So like this bad version of Deadpool in Wolverine Origins is from a timeline that's very, very close to the events of this version of Deadpool's timeline. And as of the events of Deadpool 2, he is part of the main Fox Marvel timeline. That's why I say Wolverine Origins is like a variant timeline of Deadpool. It's the same idea in Spider-Man No Way Home, where you have the three Peter Parkers, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man coming to the MCU. The events of their lives played out a little bit differently, but they go home to their universes at the end of that film. The only difference this time is at the end of Deadpool 2, Deadpool causing Nexus events left and right in his own Fox Marvel timeline, the same way that Loki and Sylvie did during Season 1, like wreaking utter havoc. There've been all kinds of rumors about crazy cameos, like a version of Galactapool. You have to imagine Deadpool messing up one of his timelines so badly that it leads to a version of Galactapool happening, and that's one of the reasons why the TVA gets involved, because he's doing things that lead to that kind of craziness. Naturally, the TVA, still trying to do their job, would try to stop him, arrest him, and whoever's with him, enter Hugh Jackman Wolverine. I'll talk about Wolverine in a second. Deadpool is to blame for most of the events of Deadpool 3, he just kind of ropes in Hugh Jackman's Wolverine for the fun. Where you get to Deadpool versus Miss Minutes is after Deadpool's arrested by the TVA, brought in for processing like everybody else. Miss Minutes gives him the whole tutorial on the Kang Multiverse War, why the TVA exists to protect the timeline, now multiple timelines because of the larger multiverse. In Deadpool being Deadpool, not really listening to her or caring, causing as much trouble for them as possible, doing whatever he wants to do, the same way Sylvie kind of walked all over them for a long time. There are a couple of really cool things that they're introducing during Loki Season 2, like really dangerous ideas, really dangerous objects that will probably figure into the events of Deadpool 3 as well. The reason Hugh Jackman's Wolverine is such a big part of the plot is probably because Deadpool pulls him from the Fox Marvel timeline before the events of the Logan movie. That's the future of his own Fox Marvel timeline. During that second big Deadpool 3 teaser they released a little while ago, they said that they weren't going to completely erase what happened in that movie. This is them talking about it.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
You have questions.
Yes. I had a lot of questions. I'm sure you had a lot of questions, but rest assured, we're going to answer them right now. Like, for example, how is Wolverine alive after Logan?
Logan takes place in 2029. Totally separate thing. Logan died in Logan. Not touching that. What actually happens in our film is...
What that means is that Deadpool yoinks him from earlier in his timeline. When he does that, things go off the rails. This Wolverine becomes a variant of the original. The events of the Fox Marvel Universe continue, and the Logan movie still winds up happening, but our new Wolverine variant and Deadpool variant exists the same way that Loki exists now in the MCU. They're still the main versions, technically, but they're also technically variants of the originals. And if you really think about it, the TVA is a MCU creation, it's core MCU, even though the way they exist inside the multiverse, they're kind of like a pocket dimension, is a little bit different. Just the sheer act of them interacting with the TVA characters makes Deadpool 3 take place in the MCU, but what they really mean when they say the movie's going to be in the MCU is that the movie will set up Deadpool and Wolverine to return in Avengers 6 Secret Wars. So even though they'll mess with a bunch of events in Marvel movies, like he will mess with the timelines of a bunch of other Marvel films, I think that most of the movie moments that he messes with from the previous Marvel movies will be from the Fox Marvel movies. That's why I say the vibe is more like Deadpool kills the Fox Marvel universe. That's part of the joke, like he messes with a lot of the Fox Marvel movies. There've been a lot of rumors about them bringing back the Fox Fantastic Four characters for cameo scenes. I think that's how they would bring them back, is that he messes with the events of those movies and those timelines.
What the shit?
And even if Deadpool does completely wreck the Fox Marvel Universe timeline during Secret Wars, the whole idea is that they fix the multiverse after they defeat Kang, so any universe or timeline that was destroyed or wrecked will mostly go back to the way it was. Mostly, I say. The larger goal in Secret Wars is to fix things in a way that will explain a bunch of mutants X-Men characters popping up in the MCU all of a sudden. Like, this is why you didn't know about us before, because of Secret Wars. That's one of the reasons why they haven't been hyping up the new MCU X-Men movie as much, because they're mostly waiting till Secret Wars happens to do that. In Marvel Phase 7 will be hardcore X-Men mutant space stuff. Deadpool 3, characters like Namor, who's a mutant they just introduced, Miss Marvel being a mutant, is just the tip of the spear, like just a teaser of things to come. We'll see more mutants and X-Men stuff happening in the MCU piecemeal up until Secret Wars, but like really big X-Men movies probably not going to happen until after Secret Wars. Ryan Reynolds is always really good about dropping teasers and hints like this as we go along, so of course I'll do new videos about Deadpool 3 when he does that. But if you have any big questions about how this is all going to work or how the characters are all going to come together, just write it in the comments below. We'll get a new Loki Season 2 trailer probably sometime early next year because those episodes will drop next summer. The next big Marvel Disney Plus series is going to be What If Season 2 and then the Secret Wars series. Trailers for that stuff really soon. There are also going to be a couple brand new Marvel movie trailers really soon as well too. Click here for that new Ant-Man Quantumania Kang video, and click here for my Loki Season 2 trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.